Good morning. You're all very welcome to the Creative Sector Discovery Session on behalf of the Creative State Northwest. My name is Mary McAuliffe. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. I know some of you have travelled from across the region, from Donegal, from Mayo, from Leitrim, from Roscommon, and of course we have creative businesses from Sligo represented here as well. So it's a very special event in the sense that it's the first time that creative businesses from across the region will have met at an event such as this. So it's wonderful to see that. It's a new beginning, and that new beginning is very much about highlighting the role of the creative sector as a change maker and as a driver of innovation. So my role is just to talk you through the running order for the session. Aoife is going to take you through the housekeeping. And just to introduce Dr. Judy Scully from NESTA, Sally Brazier from SISTRA, and Ian Henry from CISL will be joining us in a few minutes. So just quickly to go through the programme. We have, for the first session, session 1, the proof panel, the power of creative partnerships, and we're going to be focusing on the NESTA Creative Credits scheme. Dr. Judy Scully from Aston Business School, Aston University, Birmingham, has just completed a major piece of research on the Creative Credit scheme, its benefits, its impacts, the difficulties, the challenges, and she's going to give us an insight into the key findings of that research and outline the key characteristics, just give you an overview of the Creative Credits programme and how it worked. And Judy will be followed by Ian Henry from CISL Media, and Ian is basically a case study from the Creative Credit scheme as a creative business who participated in the scheme, talking to you from his own perspective as a creative of what he felt about the scheme, how it benefited him, how it benefited his business, what he found challenging in relation to it, etc. The second session then will follow, where you'll get a detailed overview of the 4CNW Business Innovation Support Programme. I'm going to give you the programme overview, just give you a deeper insight into the process and the 5 stages that you go through if you choose to participate in it. And Aoife Flynn is going to take you through the registration process in some detail. And then just at the end, Sally is going to take you through her speed pitching workshop, developing an elevator pitch where you may only have like a minute to 3 minutes to sell your business in a broader environment. It's quite challenging and difficult, not when you know how, like everything, but in the beginning it can be quite daunting. So Sally is going to help you to focus on how she has worked with creative businesses in the UK in doing just that. And that's our session for the day. Following each of the speakers, so following Judy's presentation, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Similarly, following Ian, you can ask some questions. After myself and Aoife, there'll be an opportunity for questions. And finally, at the end. At the end as well, the project team will remain in the auditorium here. So if any of you want to talk to us in more detail about the programme, if you have any queries or clarifications, feel free. We're going to stay on for half an hour or so. Okay, so hopefully that's all clear, and I'm going to hand over to Aoife. Enjoy the session. Thank you.
Hi folks, just a small little bit of housekeeping. If you do have mobile phones, if you could just put them on silent, you don't need to turn them off. For anybody who wants to, there's Wi-Fi available in the room under Black Box, I think it is, so you should be able to find that easily. When we get to the Q&A, which Mary was speaking about, we are recording this so that we can make it available to people who couldn't be here today. So Yasmina, who's here somewhere, is going to be going around with a roving mic. So if you're asking questions, if you could just wait until the mic gets into your hand so that we can be sure to hear the question and record it for the recording. The only small other bit of housekeeping is to note your fire exits. There's one behind you, there's one behind me here to the left, and there's the doors that you came in. And I think that's it. Otherwise, we're not really having any breaks today because we know that you're busy and we wanted to get through everything before lunchtime. So do come and go as you please. You know that the bathrooms are just out the door here and around to the right. Please do ask questions as much as you can. This is a perfect opportunity to get as much information as you can out of us so that you can engage with the programme. And as Mary said, if there isn't time in the official Q&A, we'll all be around afterwards and you can ask us questions one-to-one. So thank you very much. And all that's left for me to do then is to introduce Dr. Judy Scully, who Mary has said has come over from Birmingham to share her research with the NESTA Credits scheme, which is the most similar scheme to us really, because there isn't anything like this in Ireland. So if I could have a warm round of applause for Judy, please.
You all sitting here today actually really reminds me of my Monday 9 o'clock class when I have students for 3 hours and it's like a similar size and they're there thinking, oh God, let's get through this lecture bit to get it over, to get the networking going. So I just wondered, I'm going to squander 2 minutes of my time on the presentation, and it'd be really nice if you just speak to the person next to you and just tell them what was the best thing that happened to you last week. Because networking for you is really probably much more beneficial than my talk anyway. So just if we can just sort of start a bit of a vibrant conversation before I throw you with all the facts of this piece of research. So could you just... Three of you. Does anybody want to just share their wonderful experience with everybody else? Just one or two maybe, something really nice that happened? Okay, yeah? No? No? Okay, yeah. So yes, well I have had some very strange experiences that students actually think wonderful that's happened over the weekend, but we won't go into that. I should just say that NESTA, because we tend to talk in acronyms, academics, and then people think what the hell they're talking about. NESTA is the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts. It's probably the biggest funding body that focuses specifically on innovation. So, and it has just actually been turned into a charity, as our government in its wisdom is cutting back every sort of funding for every sort of government body. I presume in probably 3 years down the line they'll probably be also looking for funding themselves, but they are an excellent organisation, and if you want to go on their website there are some really very good research findings from other innovation studies. And so we've worked on this study with them for 2.5 years now. We're just about to produce the final report. The final draft's going backwards and forwards, and there is actually an interim report that's on the website, and at the end of the presentation the address is there, so I presume the presentation will be open to everybody if they want it. I want to be really honest about this project as well, because I do want to explain the flaws. You know, with all research things go wrong, and the findings aren't necessarily always hunky-dory, and you'll see from this that the findings weren't. But this was basically designed as a policy evaluation experiment, because we've had a lot of innovation voucher schemes across the UK. And we ran a large one at Aston University, and the other RDAs also, of which there were another 12 of those that have also been abolished. They ran them as well. But what we didn't do, and it was a major flaw, was we didn't have a consistent evaluation. The evaluations that we did were mainly descriptive. So we designed this study basically as a random controlled trial experiment, similar to what we would do in health studies if they were testing drugs. So we also recruited, as well as the 150 participants, small, medium enterprise businesses, which using the European definition for that is between 1 and 250 employees. We also recruited a control group of another 150 who actually had nothing to do with the experiment, so that we could see over the 2.5 years, because it was a longitudinal study, whether or not they innovated at the same rate as our respondents, who obviously were being given assistance to innovate. Now, you'll see at the end that, unfortunately, by the end of the study, 2.5 years down the line, there was actually no difference between the two of them. But in the meantime, I think they did innovate. So I'll talk to you about the study. The reason that this was a business-to-business study, normally our innovation studies have actually been research providers, universities to SMEs. But this was business-to-business, so it was SMEs and creatives. Small, medium enterprises who could be any type of an SME, but not a creative SME, because the creative SME was the provider in this study. And we found that research shows that SMEs, sort of what you might say the traditional mainstream, tend to be reluctant to partner with creatives. And through our findings, we do see, and you'll understand this a lot better than I do, that very often small, medium enterprises who are not creatives hold particular stereotypes of the creative industries. So they do see themselves as operating in sort of different thought worlds, and we've seen this operate throughout the study. And one good thing about coming together is that breaks down these sort of stereotypes, and confidence will grow in working with the creative industries. So the Creative Credits was basically designed as a business-to-business innovation voucher scheme to encourage the small medium enterprises to innovate in partnership with the creative, because we've also got evidence to show that they will innovate more, and SMEs are looked at as the whole growth sector of the economy at the moment. You know, they're 95% of our economy. So we look to the SME sector actually to be our huge growth sector of what we need. Now, the Creative Credit itself has got a face value of £4,000, and the SME was required to add a further £1,000 to support this. So basically, the SME was getting £5,000 worth of work for £1,000. And this was actually, it operated in the Manchester region, because Manchester actually has a very good creative sector. So 150 creative credits were distributed in the Manchester region between October 2009 and November 2010. And this was the design of NESTA, a very light touch brokerage. So that the light touch brokerage was actually a gallery. So the creative companies were invited to put their details onto an online gallery, and then the firms that were awarded a creative credit, the SMEs, then perused the gallery to select the creative credit that they wanted to work with. And so it's basically, they did it themselves in a sense with the brokerage. And actually we found at the end of our findings, you'll see that the brokerage was actually one of the problems. But it was very innovative in itself to use a brokerage of this type. We'd used much more hands-on brokerages in the other innovation schemes that we'd run earlier, and they're very costly. So this was seen as efficient, and that it would enable the SMEs to sort of just sort out who they were compatible with. Okay, so this was the logic model that we used for the creative credit. So this is where it gets boring, but it's okay because you might want to use it at some time, or give it to your kids if they're doing innovation studies. We've got the situation, this low-level interaction between SMEs and the creatives. The funding for the creative credits this was quite a big tranche of funding really for government funding to actually put into this. The brokerage was to stimulate these linkages, and then the outputs was to look at the demand-led allocation of the creative credits with the award, and actually to monitor as well what was going